and welcome to video 3, and this is where I'm just going to explain to you about the worksheets that we've got for the book this week called Tiny Ant. And as I say, this is the last week of the term of the year, the academic year, where we're going to do a traditional story detective style worksheet. So it'd be great if you could have a go on this very last one, because next week we're going to do something a little bit different. So we have here the first page that you're all familiar with now. Do please remember to put your name on, because when I get them on the computer, sometimes I get confused about who's sending me what. So do please make sure you put your name on them. And our word of the week here, rehearse, which we learnt before, is the meaning is to prepare for a performance. So choose a synonym and an antonym. We can choose ones from our list. Let me see if I can move this over without dropping everything off. We had practice, go over and train as synonyms, and play it by ear, wing it, or improvise as antonyms. Or you could come up with one of your own. And then please use the word rehearse in a sentence so that I can be sure that you've understood it properly. Now, we're looking at the vocab from the book that I've just done in video 2. So we have the words cue, acrobatics, judge, applaud. Gosh, I forgot to mention that one in video 2. Applaud, that is where you clap should show your appreciation. Sorry, I've forgotten to put, let's have a quick look at the book actually to see where the word applaud is. I think it's near the back. Apologise about this. I thought I'd underlined it to remind myself. But obviously, oh no, I didn't. I haven't missed it. Sorry. So, wow, the audience applaud and they stand up to cheer. So that's when you clap because you think something has been done well. Okay. So have a look there at the words on that side and see if you can draw a line to the meanings down this side. So we have spectacular gymnastic feats, to form an opinion, a line of people waiting, an implement to amplify sound, or to show approval by clapping. So you join up a line to link the word to the meaning. And then we have the same words here along with our word of the week, rehearse, and I'd like to see if you can put those into sentences there. So I'll give you an example for the first one. Before the concert, the children had to something every day to make sure they knew exactly what to do. Well, let's have a go. What about before the concert, the children had to acrobatics? No, that doesn't make sense. Before the concert, the children had to judge every day? No, that doesn't really make sense. Before the concert, the children had to microphone every day? That doesn't make sense. Cue every day to make sure they knew exactly what to do? No, that doesn't really make sense either. How about applaud? Before the concert, the children had to applaud every day to make sure they knew exactly what to do. No, that doesn't make any sense. It is obviously the word rehearse. That's preparing and practicing. So before the concert, the children had to rehearse every day to be sure they knew exactly what to do. So go through those and put in missing words. And then, also in this story, we did have a lot of synonyms for the word said, and we've looked at this for the last couple of weeks, but it's a really important part of making your writing interesting. When you read a story and it says things like, the boys said hello, then the girls said goodbye, it's very boring just to hear the word said all the time, and it doesn't really tell you anything. It doesn't tell you whether they're happy, sad, angry, excited. So if you can use a different word, it really makes your writing more interesting. So one of the examples from the story here is perhaps he's mighty muscle ant. So remember this part in the story where they were all like laughing because the ant had turned up and they didn't think he was going to be very good at anything. So they don't just say it, they joke it and jeer it. So they're jeering at him. So that's an example of how instead of just saying the others said, we've got the others joke and jeer. So it's a really interesting way of using the word said, because we can really tell from that, using those words, that they're being really mean to the ant. If they're joking and jeering at him, they're definitely being mean. So I've just put a few more sentences from the story here, and we've got our word bank of whispers, groan, gasp and cheer. These are all synonyms of the word said. So see if you can fit them in so that they make sense there. And I'd like you to write a sentence, because we've done a lot of this over the last couple of weeks looking at these synonyms for the word said. So I'd like to see that if you can write a sentence. Now, when you're writing a sentence where we have reported speech, where we're actually quoting what somebody said, please don't forget your punctuation marks. We need to put our spoken words inside punctuation. Inside inverted commas here, and we need to have a punctuation mark at the end. So, for example, here we've got an exclamation mark, there it's a comma, and then the next the sentence carries on where you put then about whether it's the audience whispered or groaned or whatever you're going to use as your synonym. Try and use something interesting and make that sentence really stand out for me. And now we are on our research and quiz time. Now I found some really fun videos this week, including a Wildcrafts video, because we're going to have a look at ants. They are amazing creatures. They're only tiny, and you might not think that they do very much, but my goodness, they have a very complicated system of working and a very complicated community, how they all live together. It's really quite fascinating. So there's some links here for you to click on. I think if you just watch the first one that I've listed here, which is the one of the Wildcrafts, because that's quite a fun one where we can really get into an ant hill. And then I've got some questions here about ants. What type of animal are they? Are they insects, arachnids, or a myriapod? What do we call the community in which they live in? How many queens would live in an ant community? What does the queen do? What's her role? And what do the worker ants do? Okay. What do ants eat? How do they communicate with one another? What are the 3 sections of an ant's body called? Now there are some, you might not find that in the Wildcrafts video, but you'll find it on some of the other links. How many legs does an ant have? And what's an ant's antenna used for? And then a little bit of creative writing here. I'd like you to have a think about what you would do if you were asked to be in a talent show. Now, what could your talent be? Maybe you're a singer, maybe you're a dancer, maybe you do something amazing, maybe you're a magician, you could do card tricks, or maybe you could ride a unicycle or stand on your head, or maybe you could kick a football and or get a basketball into a net 10 times in a row with no drops. So you have a think about what your talent can be. It doesn't have to be something that you can actually do now. Maybe it's something that you'd like to be able to learn to do. So see if you can tell me something about it and draw a picture. And then the moral of this story today, we learned that you can't judge anyone by how they appear. And there's a phrase, a sort of well-known sort of proverb, you can't judge a book by its cover. And it's a very interesting way of saying the same thing. So you might look at that book and think, oh, there we go, it's going to be very interesting. It's got a colourful cover. That might be a nice story. But if it was just covered in a plain piece of paper and it was called Tiny Ant, you might think, oh, that looks a bit boring. But actually, it's the same story. We're just looking at the cover and it looks very plain. Maybe it just looks like that. But you shouldn't judge that story based on the cover of the book, because you don't know what's going to be involved in that story. Even if the book cover was just completely plain with no clue, it's still going to be the same story inside. So you shouldn't give an opinion or judge that book before you've had a look inside. And that's a sort of metaphor for how we should treat one another. So see if you can discuss this with somebody in your family, your mum, your dad, your auntie, or your siblings, because it is a very interesting way of looking at how we reflect on other people. Do we judge people because we think that they look poor or rich, or they look different from us? Maybe we have a different view of them if they have a different appearance to us. Maybe they're in a wheelchair. Maybe we could look at them and think, oh, I don't think they'd be able to do very much. They're in a wheelchair. We have to really think past that and say, no, we can't judge anybody by the way they look. And I think it's a very important message, and something that I think if you discuss it, if we were in class, we'd have a good discussion about this. But see if you can have a discussion with your parents and write some notes on what you think and what you've learned. Because it is an important message to say that you can't judge anybody by how they appear. You really have to get to know them. And as I say, you can't judge a book by its cover is a sort of metaphor or a saying that encompasses that idea. Okay, and then we have our fun activities. We've got a word search, some handwriting practice, a little ant maze, and finally a little ant dot to dot, which you can colour in as well. So tune back in for the next video, video 4, and I will show you the sort of answers I would expect from those worksheets. Okay, thank you, bye.